Hey guys, welcome back to the Unwracked podcast. I'm Andrew Berry, your host, and I'm joined by my faithful co-host, Sir Kyle Wilkes. Kyle, how's your week going so far, man?
Not too bad, Andrew. It's a good week. November here already. I can't believe it's toward the end of the year, man.
Yeah, a lot of things are changing. The weather, I don't know about you, but it was like 52 degrees out this morning. When I went on my walk, I had to actually wear a sweatshirt, which I don't like to do in Florida. Before we get started today, we've been getting a lot of comments. I feel like just put it to bed. People asking like, "Hey, what happened between you and Anton? He was one of your former clients, classic physique pro. You turned him pro. I think youngest classic pro ever. Anything you want to say on that? Just to put it to bed.
Jumping right in today, huh?
Why not?
Honestly, me and Anton, we're perfectly fine now, man. You know, back Pittsburgh was the last show that we did, and we had a little incident, and it was a group of us, let's just say. Unfortunately, the reality of the situation was my attention wasn't fully on him, and you know, it was kind of a position that I put myself in essentially to where he was a little unhappy with that being the case, and he's not wrong. And I kind of had to pick and choose what direction I was going to go, and ultimately I made a decision, and that was kind of it. You know, at the time, obviously, I'm sure we were both a little emotional. You know, he's coming off a pro debut and things like that, but like anything, man, time goes by, and we actually spoke earlier today, and things are cool. And so I'm glad to see that he got back on stage this year, qualified for the Olympia next year. So I'm excited to see what's in his future, regardless of what role I play in his life. I'm always going to root for people that I've worked with, and sometimes people come and go, as you know, and you can't like beat yourself up over it, especially when it has nothing to do from a coaching aspect. I'm sure you had people that
Yeah.
left maybe because you're coaching their partner. I've had that happen a couple of times to where they're just like, hey, you still work with my boyfriend, so I can't work with you anymore. And it's just like, what the hell does that have to do with anything? But again, they think of me, they think of the boyfriend, whatever. So it's the part of the job, I guess, right? But again, this is a
Yeah.
service-based industry.
Yeah, and I think people are under this misconception that every time an athlete leaves you or you make the decision to not work with an athlete that there must be some crazy blow up that you guys are enemies till the end of time. And it's like, nah, I have so many of my former clients that I root for, I stay in touch with. Yeah, so I just think so. You put it to bed, so we can stop getting the comments,
Yeah,
stop getting the
no,
DMs. I know I had a few questions in our Instagram question grab that were like, "Hey, ask Kyle about the Anton situation, as if it's like a situation that's ongoing." So
no.
they're amicable, things are good.
We're perfectly fine. Yeah, no issue. Maybe we'll have him on sometime.
Yeah, that'd be good, definitely. Maybe before as he's getting ready for the Olympia next year.
Yeah, don't want to bother him for that. No, yeah.
Yeah. Do you have anyone doing Easterns next week or this weekend?
Two people?
Yeah.
No, I have. There's shows every weekend now. It's crazy, man. It used to just be this past show. I didn't even know until I was coaching someone, and I didn't know the show was in Jersey that he was preparing for. He did a pro show. The New Jersey East Coast show was the first time they did a pro show. They had two divisions there. So I
Yes.
was just like, what the hell? They had Battleground Productions, I think from Texas, they usually do.
Battle up, right?
Battle Up,
Battle.
yeah. So they
Yeah.
had that. So the whole show was, I was like, wow, a New Jersey show. That's a pro show for
Well, they're
once.
normally in Texas too, so it's weird to see them
Yeah.
branch out all the way up to the Northeast. You know.
Yeah, but no. But I guess my point is like there's so many different shows now. So when people are competing in different areas, the Northeast used to just have the select few. The Easterns was like the big one everyone knew about. But
Yeah.
now there's literally one. Like I said, there's one last weekend. This weekend's Easterns. Next week is someone up in New York or something.
Yeah.
But it's just every week, man. I feel like there's shows, and that's just in my area.
Yeah. I had a show I had a couple people competing this last weekend, but actually I want to give a shout out to a longtime client, Ryan Sullivan. I'm going to share his picture because you have like these loyal clients that stay with you from the beginning of their career to the end. This is my boy Ryan. He got on stage. He won Classic Physique, Class C, and the overall. I think it was one of our best looks to date, and I was just really happy for him. So big shout out to Ryan. This is going to be his last year, or not this year, but next year. He's going to do a number of the national shows and whatnot. So just want to give him a quick shout out.
Very nice. That's good. It's always fulfilling, man, when you have those. I think we were talking about with Chris when we have clients that are with us from day one,
Yeah.
and you see their evolution. And it's pretty fulfilling, is the word I'll use.
Well, I know like people like to say, wins are wins and stuff, but some wins just mean more. You know, if a guy that you saw that was a skinny, not very muscular, you know, we could get him in shape for his first show, but he wasn't going to like win any muscularity awards, you know. And then fast forward, what, 8 years, and to see him get on stage, you know, this is his second win that we've had together, multiple class wins over the years, but it's nice to have him in a position now to where he's looking the part, and we're going to feel confident going into national level shows.
That's cool.
So we got a lot on our plate today. You guys are killing us with the physique critiques. I'm talking, we put a story up, and or even, I don't know about you, but I get like 10 DMs a day. Hey, how do I get a physique critique? So just for reference, I put it in my link tree. Anyone that's, you know, you don't have to reach out to Kyle anymore. You don't have to reach out to me anymore. Just go to my Instagram, click on the link tree. It's the first thing up there. There's a form you fill out. But I want to start out with 2 physique critiques from some ladies. We have some female listeners, which that's awesome, you know. This one to start with, Eleni. She's 5'2", 123.6, 31 years old. She's doing the Atlantic Coast Pro Show coming up here, I think, in 2 to 3 weeks, I believe. And she's coached by Justin Jacoby. You know, I feel like I might have worked with her like 10 years ago. I might be mistaken, but she looks so familiar to me. But I do know I was there when she turned pro. But Kyle, what do you think?
I recognize her as well. I think I worked with her about 5 years ago.
Okay.
She has come quite a long way since, so her and Justin have done fantastic work. I mean, I always thought when she was back then, she had a great frame. There's just something that, again, you're young. You think she's 25, 26. Obviously, she's 31 now.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at her physique, I mean, it's impressive. From the front, it's exceptional. From the back, it's come a long way. You know, do I think she can still make some improvements to be like at top of the level pro-wise for figure? Yeah, for sure. But from a conditioning standpoint, she's right there. I wouldn't say there's any glaring weaknesses. It's just a matter of, hey, I look at it from the front, that's like top tier. And then from the back, it's like, hey, that's pretty good. Could be a little bit better in time with more dense tissue accrued to the frame, you know?
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, I think when she turned pro, she also won women's physique. She won a card in both figure. Yeah, okay.
I think so.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%. The front shot is on the money. I love how her delts look in comparison to her waistline. That's what you're looking for in figure. Yes. If we're to be nitpicky, more quad sweep, you know, just a little bit more quad sweep. But back shot, I think, just keep doing what you're doing because she definitely's put on a lot of size since she got her pro card. Mm-hmm. But I do think just more density, you know, in the erectors, in the rhomboids. I think when those really stick out. And I know she's not fully all in conditioned yet. She's got a little bit more time.
Yeah.
But I think the width of the back is pretty good. I just want to see a little bit more density because you're just seeing girls that look 3D from all angles now. So
yeah, I mean, for her, like I said, we're this for people that are watching. Like she's not national. She's beyond national level. She's pro. So we're comparing her to Olympians that we just saw come off the stage a couple weeks ago, right?
Yes. Yes, our critique comes with the greatest of respect for the work that she's done. So, and I want to do one more female before we get into some questions. This one, she's a listener of the show. I've been a fan of her physique. I don't know if I started following her or she followed me, but Tanya Dominique Go, she's 5'3", 156 in these pictures. This is her currently right now. And I wanted to show you her pictures from, let's see. This was September 24th through September 25. So this is her 1 year progress in that time period. And she gave me a little bit of notes here so I can give some. 2021, she first started bodybuilding at 100 pounds. 2022 was her first competitive season. She turned pro at 117 in 2023. She did her pro debut at 125 in 2024. And then this was her full off season, September to September. I think she tapped out at 161 on the right.
What was she on the left?
On the left, I want to say she's probably 125.
Good.
So that's kind of amazing, actually.
Yeah, it makes me look.
I mean, this girl's progressed like crazy. She's gone from 100 to 161 pounds with still some really good conditioning.
I mean, her taper is wild.
right?
Yeah, I mean, upper body is exceptional, especially in the back. You know.
The, so this is kind of what I was kind of mentioning about Eleni a minute ago. You see the rhomboids and the back straps, just like the lumbar area, that depth, kind of that Kai greenish muscularity in the lower lats in the lumbar area. That's, I think, something that Eleni should be trying to build to match the depth that she has and the muscularity in her front shot. Okay. Um, yeah, this girl's 27 years old. I mean,
Phenomenal.
yeah, just the improvement from her first pro season,
The
which,
one thing to pay attention to is like her waist. Like, look at the difference. Like, if you just look at her waist, it's marginally increased, and then everything else is just full blown. You know?
yeah, yeah, it's almost like were you natural when you did your prep, and then I mean, and then you found the gear, because she did list her cycle or some information, but I'm not going to say it on air just because I didn't know if she wanted to share that with us or if she just wanted to. I don't know. So this is her currently though, and she's currently natural right now. I'll say that. So cruising along, 156, 5'3". Now we gotta give her something to work on though, Kyle.
Of course. Glutes.
Yeah,
So glutes, posterior chain, make it even better. Again, it's not that it's shitty, but that's what I see from the back and from the front. I guess more quad sweep a little bit if I had to be a stickler. I also think maybe from a posing standpoint, maybe she can rotate the knees out of touch, maybe play with it. That's really it. I don't see anything upper body wise. I think she's big enough for the division.
yeah. I I'm gonna say just keep doing what you're doing.
Sure.
I looked at her Instagram. She's coached by that guy Justin, like 413 maybe, or it's like an area code I think. Justin, he has some wellness pros. He has some good figure athletes. He does a good job with them from what I've seen, and I think his athletes have a lot of good things to say about him. So yeah, thank you to the ladies for your submission. It's nice to know we have some female listeners because both Kyle and I do work with males and females. And with that, let's move on. We're going to do a couple more physique critiques at the end. We got some guys we're going to break down, but I wanted to get us right into questions. And to start us off, Kyle, this is from Hurley underscore Jaycock. Does weed impact insulin sensitivity or cause water retention?
You hear this a lot with like estradiol. I think that's probably what he's referring to.
Yeah.
It's said to be problematic, maybe in excessive amounts. I never really noticed an issue from a lab work standpoint with some clients that were, I don't know, potheads. I've had some Chief Keefs and they're fine. And at the same time, if I put an AI in, it drops it, right? So um, usually I'm more concerned with the why behind it for most people. It's either one of two things. One, they need to increase their appetite, so they find that smoking helps them. Or two, they need to just relax, take it down a notch, and it helps them kind of sleep and stuff like that. But that's my 2 cents. What do you think?
I'm going to say because I've done the whole let's go down the rabbit hole on research studies. You got some studies that say that sure it could possibly have some water retention. You have some other studies that say the opposite. It actually might dry you out more between its interaction with the endocannabinoid receptors. So it's one of those things where I say it probably doesn't have any. It doesn't make a difference one way or the other. So if it keeps the athlete more relaxed, they can relax the night before the show. I'm going to say use it. You know.
And if you sleep better, as we all know, or at least I can attest to, when I get more sleep, I drop in weight, I look much better, refreshed.
Yeah. Yeah. So there you have it. If you're a weed head, just don't do too much. Do you have any weed stories, real quick, of athletes that like just they have to do it before they get on stage?
I have a story back at Easterns many, many moons ago, 2017, 2018. There's a one client that he was just so high that it was just like, I remember I was like, hey, it's time to pose, or like, give me a check-in. And it was just like watching like paint dry. He just couldn't move. Right? I was just like, dude, this is fucking crazy. Like, stop smoking. This is wild. But more so, again, just to the point where the person's just not in tune, they're not flexing.
Yeah.
I would say nothing right before stage. Like I've never seen anyone at least do it in front of me where they're like, hey, hold on, I need to go hit my joint outside before I go on stage.
I got a kid who actually competed a couple weeks ago, the show I saw you at. Every time I sent him, like, he'd do his check-in and I'd send him the response back, he'd be like, okay, 1 second, I just got to finish this blunt and I'll go do that. Like, literally, I'm talking 6 check-ins that day, 6 blunts, everything was like, let me finish this. But here's the thing, he operates at a higher level when he is slightly high. So you and me, we'd be slumped in our chair, drooling, thinking about what we're going to eat, whereas that puts him in a mode where he can focus and get his shit done. What do you got for me?
Man, I got a lot of questions. So, guys, I'm just going to try to rapid fire a lot of these. The first one's from Metro Sop. Do you keep Reta in during peak week?
Yes and no. Depends on the situation. If I think it even slightly increases, is causing some waistline issues, if it's slowing down their digestion to the point where they can't use the bathroom when we want them to, I'm pulling it. And I just tell the athlete, hey, get ready to be hungry, finally, for this next 10-day stretch. In a lot of cases, though, and again, the most I use with people, and people can comment if you're one of my clients, if I'm lying here, but like 250 micrograms 3 to 4 days a week, maybe as much as 5.5 3 days a week. We've had people tell us they're using a milligram a day. That ain't ever going to be me, man. Like, I don't want to kill your hunger response, and I don't want to slow down your GI tract to the point where you can't go to the bathroom.
Yeah, no, I think it's dose dependent. For most people, again, I'm always doing everyday dosing, so they're not really getting a crazy blunting of the appetite because primarily it's not the factorial reason of why I'm using it or not. But in any event, like I've had people run it through the show. I've also had guys take it out on maybe Wednesday because they're starting to load on carbs, and we notice maybe their motility issues because of the dose. But again, at least with Reta, I've had a client recently. I thought he was using Reta, but he actually wasn't. He was using tirzepatide, right? That's a little bit different. So again, I just encourage people to pay attention to what you're using, how it affects you, the dose you're taking. Yes, it helps from an appetite suppression standpoint, but you should be hungry a little bit, to where, I don't know. I know some people are just abusing it. They're like, hey, I took 2 milligrams last night. Why? Why are you taking so much? It doesn't make sense. Now you can't eat your regular meals,
Yeah. This one's from Hannibalic, one of my clients, bikini athlete, national level. Been hearing more about microdosing nicotine for numerous benefits. What are your thoughts?
I was never a nicotine person, man. My mother was like a cigarette smoker growing up, and that was my first taste / observation of any type of nicotine. And I hated it. I made her quit, remember, 1 year for Christmas, bought her like the patches. But no, I just never got into nicotine. I know Matt Porter was huge on giving some of the guys nicotine. It crushed the appetite. That was like the natural way of bringing someone's appetite down. But I heard recently there's a lot of different pouches that are being promoted. It helps with cognitive abilities, focusing, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'll add is I'm a almost lifelong nicotine user. I mean, I got nicotine gum in right now. If you're talking to me, I've got usually 4 pieces an hour, okay? So if there's anyone out there that abuses nicotine, it's definitely me. I've had no negative outcomes from using nicotine. Benefits for people using, some slight mental acuity, appetite suppression. Does it have a fat loss benefit? Like 0.03% maybe, difference maker. The only thing negative about nicotine is that it interferes with glutathione reductase activity. So, in the detoxification pathways, okay, maybe there's a little bit of action going on there. But a couple years ago, I actually tried to get sponsored by Nicorette Gum, and they did not respond back to me.
I like you.
Well, I figured, hey, you know what? If we can, because, bodybuilders use a lot of nicotine, whether it's the vape pens or actually, I started out with dip. I was a big dipper through high school and college, and I quit that about maybe 10 years ago because I didn't want to have jaw surgery. It's not a very in look to have half your jaw missing off your face, and it's an unsightly habit, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Next question, Frankie Goody Ares. I don't know why I said that wrong. What is the benefits of switching compounds or even just esters during a cycle in the off season?
What are the benefits of switch? Well, here's the thing. At least when you're working with me, I don't have compounds that you have to use. Like my whole thing is, what is your experience with the compounds? Start with the side effects. Like EQ makes me want to kill someone. Tren makes me stay up all night, you know? So it's like I put those in a category of like we're not going to use those, you know? Let's if we understand that all PEDs do the same thing, they increase muscle protein synthesis. It's just they impart other side effects, whether they convert to estrogen, whether they convert more to DHT, etc. So I think in terms of changing esters, I'm not changing esters typically in a off-season cycle. If I like Test E primarily, we're probably using Test E straight through a cycle. I do like to dose every day though, you know, and I think we're both in agreement about that for the most part. And then changing compounds. The, the only time I'll mention, you know, changing compounds is if I want to start or finish a cycle off by adding a little bit of trenbolone in, you know, for nutrient partitioning, and also to create more of a visual effect. But beyond that, anything you can think of?
No, I think with tests, sometimes I always switch after 8 to 12 weeks. I'll go from like C to E to sus, depending on, just to see if someone starts to respond differently. Some people I notice with sus, they're like, hey, I feel a little bit better. Now, again, do I think some of these people are people that are pinning every day? Probably not. So I think if you only pin twice a week and then you go to something that has a faster ester, you might notice it hits you a little quicker or harder. But arguably, test is test. Do I recommend switching? Sure, maybe you'll notice there's a difference. For other people, then may never know.
Gotcha. Kyle McNabb.actual, another one of my clients. When pushing food up, where do you start worrying about insulin sensitivity? Blood sugar in the 80s, 90s, 100 plus.
You get triple digits. That's no bueno. I would just be mindful of, let's just see where it is. So if Andrew, you're a client, and you're normally 75, 80, I'd say that's pretty good. If we start to notice you're all of a sudden mid-90s all the time, depending on where you are from a composition standpoint, I might start to either mess with the diet a little bit, or in other instances, maybe we add a little bit of insulin to help your body, things like that. And as we touched on the last podcast, people would refer back to, we mentioned some other supplements, cardio, things like that.
Perfect. I have nothing to add to that one. That's exactly what I'd say.
Carter Hogan. Any advice on coming back to bodybuilding after injuries? I recently broke my humerus.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I would use a, therapy regimen, peptides, GH, etc., to accelerate your recovery as fast as possible. And then from there, I always say, like, make sure you find a really good PT. And by that, I mean a PT that has bodybuilding experience or has worked with top level CrossFit athletes, because they see these types of injuries all the time. They get them back to what they're doing at a much faster rate than your typical PT. And then I would do the exercises that they give you, the rehab stuff, and put that on a level of importance that's the same as you trying to put another inch on your quads. I feel like you're going to put another inch on your quads if you get back to doing what you can do quicker, and that's what the PTs are there to help you do.
Yeah. Coming off 2 injuries myself, I think one of which I took the rehab more serious than the others. There's a significant difference in the timing it took to get back. And then from the mental standpoint, arguably that's very tough. You can't feel sorry for yourself. The best time to start is yesterday. And again, the non-sexy stuff of the corny exercises they say to do, just do them. The more you do them, the less you have to do them long term and stuff like that.
So this one is from another client of mine, Sierra Marie Weekly. We won a wellness show earlier this year. What has helped you with mindset mastery, especially in the final weeks leading to show?
Mindset mastery. I think it goes back to the root of why you're doing it, first and foremost. I think, a lot of us get into it for different reasons. Some of us have insecurities potentially, but I think, I've always been a believer, and I come from an athletic background, so if I'm doing something, I want to do it to the best of my ability. I don't want to half-ass it or something like that. Weeks leading up to this show, take things day by day. Do your best to stay present. A lot of people are just so focused on, after the show, what they're going to eat, who's doing the show. All of these things are just going to kind of not make it fulfilling, because, again, like I always tell people, the journey's the enjoyable part. Once you get to the top of the mountain, usually there's another freaking mountain you got to start to climb, or there's a valley that you're going to start to plummet to because you didn't do it for the right reasons. Just try to keep your mind strong and stable and chase your why you got into it in the first place.
Good analogies, mountains and valleys. The only thing I'll add, to help you mindset wise, and I tell a lot of my clients this, because our sport is so selfish. Everything is about my meal, my training session, my cardio session, my show, is take a time during the week and do something for somebody else. Like whether it's donating at the food pantry or something. It doesn't have to be something like that, but just remind yourself to do something nice for someone else on a regular basis, not because you're getting anything out of it. And I really do think it grounds you. I really do think it gives you, it puts it all in perspective, right? Because at the end of the day, even Mr. Olympia getting on stage and winning, he's not changing the world necessarily for the better. He's just the best looking athlete by seven judges' opinions that year. That's the end. Okay.
Next one is a former client, a good friend of mine, Brandon DeCruz. Basically, we had trained together a very long time ago. Not that I'm aging myself, but back in the day. How many sets were we doing per week for back? Or the question is, what is the most training volume either you have done in a week? I recently went back to what we were doing. We used to do a shit ton, basically, is what he said.
Okay, so, I worked with him too. Maybe 8 or 10 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. So basically, the question is what's the right amount of volume?
Pretty much, yeah. How much volume is too much?
So
what's
the right amount
of we ever done for a body part, I guess, and it's not maybe it was a positive or negative, but
okay.
What did you see from it?
Okay. So first, the right amount of volume is what you can recover from, and that might change if you're assisted with PEDs versus not being assisted with PEDs. Like one of the first things I do with athletes when we pull back on the gear is I still want to keep the intensity the same, but I probably pull back on the volume. If you're training 5 days, let's go to 4 days for a little while. But beyond that, I think the most volume I used was when I was youngest. Like when I was just out of high school and I was training with some older bodybuilders who were probably into that 80s style, like, we're doing 5 working sets for 5 different exercises. I mean, I feel like there were some back days where we probably did 30 to 35 working sets, and by working sets, I'm saying there was some level of failure that was, accumulated to. Was that too much? I don't know. It taught me some thresholds. It kind of taught me that I didn't want to do that forever, Did I grow from it? Yeah, you could argue it's just because it was a new stimulus, and it was because I was so young in my bodybuilding career. As long as I'm eating protein, training hard, sleeping 8 hours a day, I'm going to recover from most things. Would I do it today? Absolutely not. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, back then, I even have it still for some clients. I'll call it like a higher volume training program to where it's probably 20 sets for the workout, for back, and you're hitting different angles. So I think a lot of training, bodybuilding is, a lot of people just focus on getting strong and progressive overload, which, yes, it works. But at some point, when you're just someone like a power lifter and you just do very low volume, I don't care how high the intensity is, if you're not getting into those rep ranges that are 10 plus, 15 sometimes, there's a different look to the muscle. It doesn't look inflated, right? So I think a lot of people don't have that like sarcoplasmic volume in size to actually blow up. So when I was doing a lot of reps, yes, maybe the beginning of the workout is my power-based exercises, but by the end of it, like arguably when you're more advanced, you don't need as much, but I was definitely fatiguing myself. I was tapping into everything I had, hitting it from different angles, and it works, like you said. Maybe at some point it's like, okay, Andrew, this is too much. We need to do something different, but if I'm a person going back in time, I do the same fucking thing. I would just learn to do it for periods of time, back off, do a different body part maybe for more volume, stuff like that.
That makes a lot of sense. Here's one from Frankie Gutierrez _ top 3 favorite bodybuilders of all time. These are hard, right? Because you're like, I don't know.
Yeah. Kai Green, in no particular order. I always like Kai Green because of the mental aspect. He was one of the first ones to kind of talk on the thought process of going into training, how he prepares and stuff like that. And for people that, you go on YouTube, there's still tons of videos. That was like, again, it was his job, it was his career. And he took it arguably more serious than a lot of people, to where the preparation that goes into each workout, the mobility, all that weird, non-sexy stuff I like to say. And I think it produced a pretty incredible physique. He never obviously won the title, arguably got super close a couple times.
Yeah.
But he's the first one that comes to mind. I think Jay Cutler, for obvious reasons. And then you go. Let me think of a third one that's more current.
All right. So I was Now, none of them are current. Okay, so Dennis Wolf is the most current. I always loved his physique. I thought he really pushed some of the top guys. He never won the top title. He did win an Arnold, but I thought he was, obviously, we're kind of similar in frame. He's a taller white guy, wide shoulders to small waist. So I think I really related to him. I just liked his look, especially his lat spread. I also really liked Andreas Munzer. I thought his conditioning was, the things he was willing to do to get that crazy conditioning was just amazing. And then my last one, which a lot of people probably don't even know, is, maybe I'll put a picture up of him actually. You familiar with Charles Claremont?
Can't say I am.
Let me pull this up real quick. Here we go. So this was Charles Claremont. He was a bodybuilder in the 80s, 90s. Great condition. He competed in both the IFBB and like the NABA. He won the NABA Worlds. There's no real like full body shots. I just thought he had really good aesthetics. He had really good, look to his physique. His routines were really good on stage. So he was one of my favorite bodybuilders. Today he might be considered a classic guy in some of his shots, but he was one of my favorites.
Gotcha. I mean, if I had to pick a third one, I think I go back to because we were just talking about training and intensity. Dorian Yates, something like that. I think it was a 6-time Olympian, right? So ultimately, I think he got super conditioned, and he did it in a different way than most people might look at nowadays.
Yeah, he also did it different. He was kind of like the anti-superstar. He just showed up to Vegas every year, won, took his $200,000 check, went back home to his gym, and you didn't really see him again until 3 days out from the next Olympia. I mean, I'm sure he had a couple obligations for his flex, muscle shoots and stuff, but he just stayed in that dungeon gym and went back to work. And I think that is kind of a lost art. He didn't do it for anybody else other than himself, so he's definitely on that list for me as well.
This one's from Real Brandon Dokes. Shorter rest periods in between sets create more intensity? ?
They create more fatigue. I don't know about intensity necessarily because, well, let's phrase it to you this way. Let's say you're doing 2 all-out sets of 8 on a hack squat. Do you think you could do that first set and rest for, let's say, 30 seconds to 60 seconds and get the same output on the second set? Or would you rather take 3 to 4 minutes on that top set, really get your breathing under control, and maybe get the same exact reps or surpass it? Like, which one's going to yield better results,
Yeah. And that's a food for thought for people because, again, from a progressive overload standpoint, you want to keep things consistent. So, again, maybe if you're having joint problems, you still want to train hard, you're going to cut the rest periods in half. You can still do the same exercises, but now the load, you obviously can't do the same thing on the second set. If you needed 4 minutes usually, and you only get 30 seconds, there's no way you can repeat that unless you really sandbag the first set for sure.
Yeah. I think it also comes just straight to the exercise, like a bicep curl or a tricep press down. I loved going fast on those and taking 45 seconds rest, going again, building a really nice pump. But then again, that's a small muscle group, and it's not utilizing your whole body it's not utilizing your whole body. Like no one's out of breath after doing a set of tricep extensions, right? But you do a set of squats or leg press or any type of chest press, that builds up a level of fatigue where you need to catch your breath and get your heart rate under control so you can have another positive set. This is from Song High Run. I recognize that name. Can too much insulin use and or insulin with high-fat meals cause insulin resistance?
Too much insulin use with fat, you're probably going to get fucking fat, first and foremost. I think, you have a diabetic, they need insulin, right? So they're not causing insulin resistance because they're using insulin per se. You can you can really tap out your pancreas if you're just always using a ton of insulin. You don't depend, and your body's not signaling to actually produce it itself anymore. But I wouldn't say it's going to cause insulin resistance. What do you think?
I think it's not the insulin. It's you eating so much food and requiring insulin to clear your blood sugar, that's going to lead to insulin resistance, whether it's super high carb, super high fat, super high protein. Too many calories, is what's going to create insulin resistance. If you're just taking insulin to try to match what you're eating, that's probably the wrong way to go around it. You probably need to match your food, or start with your food and then match your insulin to make sure that you're clearing things appropriately. And it kind of ties back in the previous question we had about, when pushing food up, where do you start worrying about insulin sensitivity, right? Well, you can be using a lot of insulin and still have failing insulin sensitivity because you're eating too many calories. There's a limit somewhere in there to how much food and how much drugs you can push at your body in any one time. So, and I know I've seen some of these plans where, without even seeing the athlete down the road in the future, they're writing out these elaborate plans with food and PEDs like insulin, like programming insulin in like 5 weeks into their cycle. It's like, well, how do you know if they even need it yet? How do you even know where their food's going to be in 5 weeks if you haven't seen pictures of them yet? You haven't tested their blood sugar yet. So I think coaching to me is always read and reacting. Insulin's a tool we can use for a number of reasons, whether it's to help grow or to help stay healthier.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Colton_Varco. How to scale your online coaching business for beginners with no name.
Okay, so, real quick, I'll just state my story. I started out local coach, started working with athletes in my small network, bring them in crazy peeled, get them in shape, get some W's, and then word spreads to, the next community. Like in my case, I'm from Vermont. You have people doing that in the Vermont show. Then we have a bigger show like the New England's. Those athletes start to see you and they want to hire you too. And then you start bringing them to national level shows. And then you start to create a little bit of a name and momentum nationally to where now, fast forward 10 years, you got people from all over the world reaching out to you for coaching. So I say this: do not ever quit your day job until you're making double from the coaching business what you are from that day job. I think that's sound advice. Just work harder, work smarter, and figure out your schedule.
Yeah, you hit on the main points. Conquer your backyard. I think in today's era, find what niche works best for you and just pursue it relentlessly and just go above and beyond. It's a service-based industry, right? So there's a difference between selling a dream and just being more than readily available to help people navigate through whatever discomfort or obstacles they have.
This one's from Dr. Dimsdale. My coach only swears by Serostim. Surely there are quality generics that also work. It's more of a statement than I guess a question.
Yeah. I always personally like pharmaceutical growth hormone, so the Serostim, makes some people watery. You have genotropin, you have Genla is like a newer thing now, longer acting growth hormone, not much research on it. So if you want to be a guinea pig, by all means do your thing. But I do know my co-host here has perhaps some takes on generics.
I'll say this. Up until about 3 or 4 years ago, I was a Serostim or insert your favorite farm grade or bust. To me, it was like, don't even bother using the generics out there. Until someone started sending me a few different sources, which I tested, and they came back in higher purity and in larger amounts in the bottles than some of the stuff you see on, say, Serostim or genotropin. And so I started using them myself, and I'm going to say, now keep in mind, I wasn't in a contest prep situation, so it wasn't an apples comparison, but it passed the test in terms of my point of view. So there are some good generics out there. And the other thing is what always freaks me out is when someone tells me, hey, I can get Serostims. My guy says he's got 40 kits. And it's like, well, that kind of scares me a little bit. If he's got 40 of them, are we sure that that's real? I remember there's a guy out of Mexico that was selling, a lot of my friends, Norditropin pens by the dozens. If you could get 3 of my buddies 10 or 12 pens and you can get me 20 pens, I don't like that. It just seems like it's a good generic, or it's a generic in a good packaging.
Yeah.
All right, another one from Frankie Gutierrez _. Go to free meal in the off season. Details are important.
I don't eat free meals. I never have free meals. No. Go to free meal. I try to keep it classy as I get older. I like to kind of splurge on nice restaurants. In New Jersey, when you come out here, Andrew, we'll go to a couple nice places that I think will suit your fancy, tickle your fancy, whatever the saying is. You have like La Lupa in New Jersey, the Block, Strickland's Steakhouse. These are all nice places, in my opinion. If I was doing something that isn't classy, a restaurant. I'm a traditional burger and fries guy. Give me some kind of cookie, some shit like that, and I'm a happy camper. What about you?
I'm like you. As we got older, it was quality over quantity. Nice fine dining. Obviously the bill's a little bit more than it used to be, but to me, it's worth it. It's worth it to have quality. Like we've been going to Meat Market. You familiar with that restaurant down
I
here in
heard of it.
Tampa?
I never went there, but I heard of it. Yeah.
It's good. I mean, steaks are 100 to 150 bucks a piece, but it is worth it. I happily pay it. Beyond that, sushi. I'm a sushi guy, so sushi or steak is typically my go-to. But if I was going to cheap it up, yeah, burger and fries, definitely.
Next question to fuel my cheat meals, okay? My splurging. How to reach out to you guys for coaching? Andrew, do you have a
Just DM me.
DM? For me, same thing. There's also like a link in my bio you can click. More than happy to help you, either of us. 4:30. What peptides are best for off season, and which ones do you have or have your guys on?
That's a huge question.
Yeah.
I mean, let's say there's 30 peptides, right? That under that umbrella name of peptides, I probably have everyone on my team on one or two, not necessarily all the same. We're probably using the whole gamut, whether it's from Retatrutide, Tirzepatide, to BPC 157. But really, just I think the question you're probably asking, sir, is there an application for peptides, and what would it be for blank? And blank being recovery, blank being muscle growth, blank being insulin sensitivity. So I think if you maybe next time make the question a little more specific, we could give you some examples, because otherwise we could make a whole podcast that would be 3 hours long going over every single peptide.
Yeah, there's a lot. But at the same time, it comes down to budget for some people. I always ask, what's your budget? And if they're taking gear, the subs are coming first, then the gear, then maybe peptides, stuff like that.
Yeah. From Protech_coaching, with Reta being used in off-season plans, does the need for Lantus use drop?
Yeah, so again, you have this like school of thought. People are using Reta for insulin sensitivity. I'm not putting it in off-season generally, unless I'm going to mitigate their diet and put in cardio, adjust their nutritional plan, make sure hunger is still prevalent. So I'm not really using Reta for insulin sensitivity purposes, at least currently with my protocols. That's not my MO. If I'm doing like a mini cut, something like that, I'm taking the food and the person's a fat ass loves to eat, then maybe I'll use it short term. But primarily, I'm not putting it in the off season,
Yeah, I gotcha. I would say yes and no. Every question we could answer with "it depends," right? Yeah. Because we've had clients because that's why I try to never give it a definitive answer, because someone's going to be like, "Wait a minute, you had me do X and Z at the same time," and it's like, "Yes, you did. Yes, I did." So, yeah, would the need for Lantus use drop? It definitely could. You could lower the dose. It should. Yeah, theoretically should. But do I have, say, maybe two guys running Lantus and Reta at the same time? Absolutely. So I don't want to pigeonhole myself into one box and have someone be like, well, I know you have my friend doing this and you lied on the podcast. So it's like, it's like one of those things. Theoretically, yes, we should be doing this. We could be getting this, but there are some instances where I still have you doing that. So
yeah. Matt_Lawson, people love Reta. How to mitigate feeling flat during workouts while implementing Reta?
First and foremost, look at your hydration status and electrolytes. I think that's the biggest thing. Yeah, I remember being on zero carb diets before Reta was even a thing, but zero carb diets for weeks on end, and I still got monster pumps in the gym because I made sure I loaded up with sodium in particular. I would do the element packs, and then I'd put extra of the electrolyte meals in, and I got great pumps out of it. I also feel like injectable carnitine is a underlooked pump agent in terms of, it's going to make you utilize more fatty acids for fuel, which is going to leave you a little bit more glycogen sparing. So you're going to have a little bit better of a pump in the gym.
Yeah. No, that says enough. Lush Colina, is test only, say 300 to 500 milligrams per week, a good first cycle?
Test only, 300 to 500 a week? Yeah. That is a wide range, though, considering 500 is almost double the 300 milligrams. So I guess it's one of those things like get your testosterone levels checked. And if you're already 900, somewhere in that range, I'd probably err more towards adding 500 milligrams of test. If you're hypogonadal, naturally, adding 350 might put you into that 1400 range right off the clip. So it all depends, I guess, right?
Yeah, I like test only for the first cycle. I think that's always the best approach for many people. Get their feet wet. As you ask this next question, I'm just going to shut these blinds because I can't see.
Yeah, I get the same thing over here. It's going to happen in about an hour. All right, so this is from Kyler M_22. Is it possible for a type 1 diabetic to leverage insulin use the same as a non-diabetic?
I'll be honest, you're going to have to repeat that.
Is it possible for a type 1 diabetic to leverage insulin use the same as a non-diabetic?
Sure. Yeah. What do you mean?
I think the main understanding first is that a type 1 diabetic doesn't produce insulin from their pancreas, right? So there is a base level that needs to be taken, right? So that they clear their blood sugar and stay normal. But then absolutely you can continue to use extra insulin and add more carbohydrates and load, volumize, etc. So it's absolutely possible.
Yeah.
All right, we got to get to this one. He's asked this question 2 or 3 weeks in a row now, and I feel bad for skipping it the first couple times I saw it. It's Rhine time. How would you program bringing up a single lagging quadricep during the off season?
So he's saying he's got a peg leg.
He's got a peg leg. He's a pirate.
Okay. I look back to rehab when I had my issue with my quad. I was doing a lot of iso or unilateral movements. I would always lead with that weaker leg, mash it with my strong leg. So in theory, maybe it was my left leg is not capable of doing near what the right leg is capable of. I just didn't really focus on growing the good leg for a bit. And the reason you don't want to go to any type of bilateral movement like a leg press is because that one side is not capable of doing what's needed. And that's how a lot of injuries happen. And even outside the gym, athletes, you'll see them tear their ACL, meniscus, whatever, and then they blow out the other one. It's because they're, whether psychologically, physically, they're unable to just depend on that leg as much anymore. So that's my suggestion, is from a frequency standpoint, approach it like you would a rehab, to where you're not looking to even get full workouts in. You're just activating as much as possible that one side, build a stronger connection, and then through unilateral movements like a Bulgarian, a single leg press, then you could do some open circuit movements like a leg extension. It will start to get stronger. And then once you know it's as strong as the other side, then do the bilateral movements and stuff like that. But most of the time, if you have a substantial difference, and I'm not saying everyone has different size body parts to a degree, right? One arm is a little bit bigger than the other. If it's glaring, you can just test it right away and know if you're doing unilateral movement, hey, this side I could do 60 pounds, this side I can only do 30 pounds. That's a substantial difference. Get the strength up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the only thing I'll add is maybe a modality to try on that, we'll call it the bad leg, is because I did this when I had an injury. I did a lot of occlusion work for the injured side, and I think strictly from a hypertrophy standpoint, it's the angiogenesis, because if you haven't been using a body part for a while, you're not getting as much capillary growth, or the capillaries just aren't needed to get to that tissue. And I feel like that helped with the capillary growth, and then helped with nutrients getting to the tissue, building a better pump, and then they caught up. But I think you're right. With the exception of great athletes like Derek Lunsford and people that are just so symmetrical, we all have imbalances from our right to left, even if we haven't had an injury. Maybe we always sleep on one side, so our shoulder's just a little cranked in, and it's not breathing as well through the night. Whatever the reason might be, it's rare that people are exactly symmetrical, which is why those people that are rise to they're the cream of the crop, and they go on to win Olympias and all that good stuff.
Next question here is from my great friend and also client, Danilo. What's one person that's made the biggest impact for you during your career as a coach?
John Meadows, by far. I mean, I don't think I need to go too deep into that, because you can go on YouTube, mountaindogdiet.com, and just see the impact he's had on me as a coach and as a person. But yeah, he's definitely, and I'm probably not the only person that can say this. There's 20 or 30 guys out there. I mean, we had Fuad on our show about a month ago, and he said basically the same thing. So, John Meadows.
For me, I got into coaching with Phil, right? our former co-host, hopefully guest in the future. Yeah, Phil Vizzacaro's full name, Phil Viz on Instagram. He was the first coach I started to really take bodybuilding seriously with. So he taught me the ins and outs of training, gave me a lot of pointers from a nutritional aspect, pharmacology standpoint. And then the other person I'd also credit would be Johnny Castellina, who I still work alongside with coaching for the last near decade almost at this point. So those would be the two people that really pioneered my thought process. And then from then, like you, Andrew, or well, at least when we always have our side conversations, we're always trying to still learn things, right? A lot of things have changed since 10 years ago, but at the same time, the basics are still the basics, right? So it's just a matter of how we communicate, the new clients that we get, navigating all the landmines that they might step on, but we've all been there.
Yeah. I think also, just to add to what Kyle's saying, a lot of us coaches stay in kind of friend groups and we run ideas by each other all the time. And I think people think the coaches are always like butting heads against each other, but really it's like, even when we have athletes in the same classes, like we're still rooting for each other's athletes. We just want ours to look a little bit better and to place a little bit higher. So there's always that exchange of information. All right. So Sam Nick 3, any solution for hand numbness and the carpal tunnel? I tried to split it, didn't work. I tried to split it, didn't work as well. 10 IUs to 6 IUs. All right. You ever get carpal tunnel from GH?
Honestly, no, man. I wish. Never did.
I'll tell you, I mean, when I do, I kind of don't mind it because it's like my shit's real and it's working. And I was one of those people that, like, as long as it's not like a health related side effect, I'm like, give it to me, you know, let me know my stuff is real. Let me know it's working. You know, solutions. Here's the thing. What I used to do is I would arrange my pillows on either side of me and keep my arms slightly elevated. That seemed to help. But it's one of these things where you kind of got to decide, do I want the results or do I want to have lack of numbness in my hands? You know?
Yeah. I mean, I think the right answer is probably, lower the dosage, or maybe pick and choose how long you're taking said dosage for, from a health and longevity standpoint. But from a pure meathead bodybuilding standpoint, it comes with the territory for some of us. Next one. This ties into my last question. This is from IFBB Pfeiffer. I believe he's also a coach. Do you think the coaching side of bodybuilding is just as competitive as the athlete side?
I mean, like I just said a minute ago, yes and no, right? Like, no, from the standpoint that I feel like a lot of the good coaches are friendly with each other. And there comes a day where, like, my athlete's going to go work with Kyle and Kyle's athlete's going to work with me. And, like, I would reach out to him and he would reach out to me to be like, hey, what things worked with this person, whether it's communication, approaches, strategies. Like, that's not a weird thing. You know, I think that's just a professional courtesy that coaches have with each other. You know, I think people like to see controversy. They like to see, oh, so-and-so is blasting so-and-so in a podcast or on a post about what he did with this guy. I stay away from that shit. Like, I want to be friends with everybody. I want, you know, people to think highly of me, to think if they got one of my athletes that I worked with in the past or vice versa, they don't take it personal, because it isn't personal, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. The other thing I would add is, you know, there are some coaches that are focused primarily on how crazy they can make someone look through drug usage, and then you have the other side of coaches that either are more mature, they have more of morals, to where they're just like, hey, I don't think we need to push as hard. Yeah, you might get the results that way in a year or two, but you're going to have a cascade and slew of other side effects and issues health-wise. I don't promote that. So when people come to me sometimes, you know, the knock on me, you're too conservative with doses. Okay, cool.
Okay.
That's fine, right? At the same time, I'm not going to, under my watch, have someone have a serious medical issue because I'm telling them to take something that, A, I never took, B, I know is reckless, because it doesn't really make the most sense to me. And again, I care about people. So, hey, if that's a knock on me. But again, that's where it gets a little competitive, because you'll see people, you have to see the forest of the tree. So if you just look at social media, some coaches, I know a couple coaches that are a wealth of knowledge. They're great. They just don't have the rock star athletes that ever came to them. Maybe they live in East Bumblefuck, Virginia. There's not a lot of, like, bodybuilding going on there. Maybe, again, no knock to anyone in Virginia. There's cool gyms down there, I hear. But in, you know, the middle of nowhere versus something that's heavily populated like Florida, Texas, you know, in Jersey, bodybuilding, you're not going to get the opportunity. And all you need is an opportunity. Some of those guys at the top, they just work with freaks that literally have been with so many coaches. They've always looked good. So just keep that in mind. Don't can't just look at social media and say, oh, he's a good coach because he had these people. It's more of like, look at the collection of everyone. They have 100 athletes. How many do they actually hit out the park?
The other thing to keep in mind too is like, what's the goal of your coaching business? Do you want to try to coach freaks, which I'll be honest, they try to get out of pain? Or do you want to build a business that's sustainable, that's going to help build wealth and provide for your future? Because I always point out to everyone, there's no 401k, there's no retirement plan in bodybuilding. So me personally, I want to do both. I want to help a lot of people. I want people that are going to pay the bills. I also want to try to get some freaks, and I want to try to get some really high quality, genetically gifted athletes at the same time. And I think you're probably the same way, Kyle. You want to provide a great service for everybody.
Yeah. Wait, I go? You go. Sorry.
All right. So from Jacob English 3, compared to your first years of coaching, what diet or training ideas have changed the most?
Read the first part of the question again. I'm sorry.
Compared to your first years of coaching, what diet and training ideas have changed the most?
My diet ideas have changed because I used to try to keep people too full. I worried about keeping all their muscle. If you're going to lose a little bit of muscle and perhaps you get to the condition you need, you probably just don't have enough muscle to begin with, because everyone's going to lose a little bit inevitably to a degree. But being in condition is what is going to prevail and usually have people showcase the best side of them. I think so. That was my first error, is I worried too much about preserving all of the muscle perfectly instead of just getting the fucker in shape.
Yeah.
Training wise, too much volume, as I kind of touched on an earlier question. I think for a while I was just, whether it was because of my passion, I loved the gym, just wanted to train my ass off, I would probably program too much volume. But at the same time, arguably, when you're a beginner, you don't know how to connect to a muscle group. So over the course of 25 sets, you probably did a good job at some point.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Like, I've never been dogmatic about anything. I've never gone into it thinking I have a system. I always think it's figuring out the person and figuring out the plan for them. So I wouldn't say things have radically changed. But one thing I think had my mindset or my approach to coaching athletes, because bodybuilding has gotten so big now with the amount of people that are interested, is I actually talk a lot of people out of competing, because I think they think they want to compete because it's going to bring them a certain thing or a certain kind of clout. And I explain to people, look, it's okay to be a bodybuilder 5.5, 6 days out of the week, and also be able to do the other things you want to do, as long as you're honest with yourself, right? And you're not building up this preconceived notion and then letting yourself down every week when you're not following through. So I can tell you there's been, every year now it's gone up more and more, where I pull people out of competing and convince them that we can still live this bodybuilding lifestyle. I'll still coach you. We can still have a great physique and get great results, but maybe we're not just getting to that last 10, 12% where you're getting stage lean, doing the things that are going to get you on stage. So that's the change I've made.
What mistakes would you say you have made, maybe, or how did you use the diet and you look back and, again, I think if any coach says they don't look back and they're like, what the fuck was that doing? They'd be lying.
Yeah. Shit, that's a good question, Kyle. Because it makes it sound like I'm sitting here like, oh, I never did anything wrong. Yeah. I've always been perfect.
Different method. I'm trying to think like.
Yeah, I'm trying to think too, like anything methodology wise that I've done differently.
Here's one I used to do often.
What you got?
Remember Pepto Pro?
Yeah.
In the intro, I used to always slam that in the intro. I don't really program that anymore, do you?
No. I feel like EAAs do the same thing, and for the cost analysis, it's like, half the cost. So, yeah, I would agree with that. I know I sound like an idiot right now because I'm struggling to think of something that I used to do that I wouldn't do anymore. But if something pops up, I'm going to bring it up. My mind is kind of blank right now. But I do think, I think the other thing, one thing I could think of was if someone gave me a certain time frame to get in shape for a show, if it was 3 months, 2 months, I had it in my head that no matter what, I like the challenge, I'm going to get them in shape. And then my decision making would be based off of, well, we got to get them in shape. And maybe not realizing that the real conversation is, hey, this is just a bad plan. We need to actually look at a show in a different time of the season. Like, we're not competing this spring. Let's put yourself in a position to be successful so that we can have a proper diet, get all the measurables done, get blood work, get all the good stuff done, instead of shotgunning a prep that, at the end of the day, we know shotgun preps rarely come out looking as good as they possibly could.
No, I think that's I feel like a lot of people should be able to admit to saying, whether it's because they're trying to build their name coaching, or
yes,
people come and they're just like, well, if I don't say yes, we can do the show, they're going to go somewhere else.
Exactly.
And you make these calls, like you said, that, you take 500 calories out and they're only at 1,800 and they're still not making progress. There's a problem. At some point, like, what are you going to do? Run them to the ground or T3 them to death, right?
Exactly. So I would say that would definitely be a mistake that I made earlier on. And again, though, I should say I was able to change that approach because, and you too, when you have a lot of inquiries, when you have a lot of potential people to work with, you can be honest with people and tell them, hey, this is not going to be a good situation, and 10 weeks is not enough time to get you in shape, or using that amount of drugs is not a good idea. You can be honest with people and maybe pick and choose how you want to work with them. Tyler Visco, client, times in your coaching career where you made the perfect call to save or salvage a look? Every weekend.
Yeah.
Every weekend.
I'm trying to think of like a specific case. I also don't like to reveal some people's stuff.
Right.
I mean, there's been numerous times to where perhaps you have to dig a little deeper and find out, maybe, for example, you've been doing something with the same client at 6 weeks out, and you make the same change every 2 weeks, and you know what to expect, and all of a sudden it doesn't. And they tell you, hey, everything's good, nothing's going on. So then you can either aggressively cut their food again, or maybe dig a little deeper and find out, like, hey, have you been sleeping? How does your body actually feel? Because if you make the wrong call and you start to dig a little, if you don't have that connection with the client, and not assume they're lying, but investigate a little further, you might prematurely make a decision that you shouldn't make, if that makes sense, right? So
yeah,
I'm going to think of in that realm, but it's an interesting question. I think more so, again, managing variables that people don't think matter, and they do, usually from a rest recovery standpoint, or giving someone more food, right? So maybe you give them a refeed every 5 days. This time around, they already hit a new low 2 days after. Don't be afraid to give them a little bit of food. And I guess then go back to other mistakes. Again, for a while, I'd be in this preconceived notion of pushing them too hard to get them in shape, that I'd be afraid to refeed them. Or maybe they're behind in prep, right? Because you have that timeline, and you're like, I can't give them food because they're only 3 weeks out and they look 5 weeks out. But giving them food actually propelled them and reset their body and kind of got their metabolism kicking.
I got an example of that actually right now, because I mean, you like me have probably prepped 1,000 people over the years, right? So it's hard to remember, like, because it's just like, I remember it as a successful prep. If I look back on my Instagram, like, oh yeah, we came in shape, that's great. Sometimes I don't remember exactly what we did to get there. Was there a move that had to be made? But I got a guy that came to me October 21st, doing Easterns, behind, not getting communication from his coach, and like you just said, okay, what does he need? Does he need to be pushed harder? Does he need to pull back? Does he need to refeed, right? And this guy right here, Nicholas Brugaleri, he came to me October 21st. We pulled, what is that, 11 pounds off of him in maybe, I don't know, not even 8 days, 10 days, I think it was. And he was going to be behind for Easterns, and now we got him right back on track. And what did we do? We gave him some fairly massive refeeds. Whoops, going the wrong way here. We gave him some pretty massive refeeds to kickstart the whole process over again. Let me pull up. I don't know why I can't see his front. There we go. Most muscular shot. So we had a pretty dramatic change in conditioning in a matter of a couple days. I think his previous coach's move was to just keep pushing, add more cardio. There was no increase in T3, there was no increase in chems or stims or anything like that. It was, let's feed you up for a few days, see how your body responds, and then we're going to go back to pushing. And that's kind of how we did that.
I have an interesting question here from _caffeine. It's a challenge. Say something nice about VLOW, vol/V high frequency, science-based brace training.
I'm going to be honest, I don't know what that acronym was. VLOW,
volume slash V high frequency. Very low volume, very high frequency.
Oh, okay. So say something nice. Both sides are right. Both sides are right, and both sides are sometimes not right. Depends on the athlete, depends on the situation, depends on the adrenals. There's a multitude of factors that are involved.
What does he mean by science-based braced training?
Science-based. Let me look that up.
Try to be more specific, guys.
Science-based.
New age shit.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now.
Braced. Science-based training.
There's a lot of stuff popping up.
All right, good.
I'm just as confused as you
Is
are.
like that weird? Is it? I think it's like the weird exercises you see people doing where they're putting their arms in fucking foam rollers and shit.
Oh, yeah, those are making some good highlight reels. Okay, here's what I'll say. And no offense to these people, well, a little bit of offense. Okay, are you familiar with Jordan Peterson, the clinical psychologist? One of his rules is clean your room, and what that means is get your own shit in order before you go out in the world and try to reorganize life as it is. Okay, and in this situation, I see a lot of people making these posts, and they're like 145 pounds, and they're very eager, and they want to try to make a personality, an online personality in the fitness realm. But it's like, even if you're right, I'm not going to take you as credible because you don't have muscle tissue to back up what you're saying. Okay, so do your thing for 5-6 years, build a freaky physique, and then come at me, and I will open it with welcome arms and say, teach me something. I'm here to learn. Let me get out my paper and pencil.
Yeah, I think the good thing I could say is they're going to the gym and they're not sitting at home on their ass. But I don't mean that in a fucked up or dickish way. I just don't think there's no muscle to them. So what are we going over?
Yeah. It's kind of like, the guy who's always broke, behind on his rent, he's got a car payment that he can't afford, going out and giving out financial advice. Hey, Kyle, let me teach you about how you should be saving money and how you should be investing. It's like, bro, no offense, but you don't have a body of evidence to support what you're saying has been working for you. So I'm already turned off in terms of my mental listening.
Yeah.
All right, let's say one more. One more for me, one more for you. Protech You had two more? Okay. Protech_coaching, utilizing peptides like SLU, MOTS-C, SS31, and Reta during the off-season setting. Another peptide question. I mean, do you have any thoughts on that? There's no question.
C is, again, I use that more for like fat burning, maybe a mini cut, a dieting phase of some sort. I'm not trying to put MOTS-C in during a rebound or something like that. It doesn't make any sense, in my opinion, for the application of it based on literally any literature. You can do whatever you want. You can take every drug under the sun. There's a time and a place for certain things that you're going to get more bang for the buck, I think.
Just going to touch on the last thing you said, bang for your buck. We know that eating works. We know that training works. We know that sleep works. And we know that traditional PEDs, AAS work. I think if you make your foundation out of those, you're going to have a lot more progress than focusing on every single new peptide that comes down the chain. I'll leave it at that.
I have three, but a lot of they're rapid fire here. Ready? Number one, this person, kj.jacob.fit, recommendations for ring lights or other equipment for proper check-ins.
Okay, so while I'm talking here, I'm just going to fill space. What I'm going to do is just put pictures up and put links to Amazon for where you guys can pick these things up.
Perfect. Next question from Siru_physique. Running 8 units growth hormone in my rebound. I'm going into a health phase. Should I cut growth hormone in half or keep it at the 8?
So I'm someone that likes to run GH at a high level if you can afford it year round. Reason being, it's one of the main PEDs that's not going to have deleterious health effects, right? So it's not like it's going to affect your liver values the same way an oral steroid will. It's not like it's affecting your HDL cholesterol like PEDs and anti-E's will. So it all comes down to affording. Sometimes people need a break in terms of the finances. And yeah, if I needed to, I would pull it out. But that's based off feedback between me and the client.
Yeah, no, I think if you had a great rebound and trying to save money, bring it down. At some point, usually, reasons we would both bring it down in agreement would be maybe insulin sensitivity getting out of hand, something like that, right?
For sure.
This one's from meat_lift. Sorry. What indicators do you look for that would necessitate tapering AAS up with clients? So maybe they're on a cycle every 2-3 weeks, bumping dosages. What would be the reasoning for it? Is, for me, again, maybe if you're not making as much progress, performance, you're saying stalling in the gym, not seeing much changes.
Yeah, I mean, I would look at the program as a whole. Like, are we feeding you enough? Are you resting enough? Recovering enough? But yeah, I would cascade gear up if I felt like, let's say you got a guy and he's running very reasonable doses and he's just never dipped his foot into, we'll say, crossing the cautionary line on doses. Let's see what it does for you. Let's see if you are a genetic responder at these higher doses. Because I'll be honest, I've had some people where you do what I would consider moderate and like well thought out cycles and then didn't get a lot, but then you did jump them up a little bit more than, and I'm not talking Boston Lloyd doses, but I'm just saying a little bit more, and they got, we'll say, A plus B equaled synergy. 1 plus 2 or 1 plus 1 equaled 3 instead of 2. Yeah. All right, is that all the questions we got?
One more if you're bored.
Why not?
It's I guess how you would define arrogance versus self-belief. This is from Aiden.Daily.
Well, arrogance versus self-belief. It's one of those things where I guess I can't put exactly into words, but we all know some people when they're arrogant, and we all know people that have a strong level of self-belief, and they show that by their actions, not their words. And I think that's the biggest thing. Like, are their actions, are they doing everything they can within their bodybuilding realm to make themselves successful? And they're doing it because they're not just doing it and posting about it. When you're with them on the road, they're doing every little thing. They're taking supplements at the right time, doing their vacuums, doing the steps, all those little things. They're showing you without saying, hey, look at me, I'm doing this.
Yeah. No, I like that. And if I had I guess define it probably, I'd say something like, arrogance is usually, it could be looked at as like a loud confidence versus self-belief being like a quiet confidence. So you have like arrogance is like they're looking for recognition, right? Whereas self-belief, you don't necessarily need any. Where one is rooted in the need to prove, as you're touching on, and then the other self-belief is more rooted in work that's kind of already been done, right? So you have one that someone's arrogant, usually they probably have an ego, while the other one is more self-fueling purpose because they believe in themselves and they don't have to go out there and prove anything to anyone. They just prove it by their actions, as you're saying.
Yeah, I think so. All right, so we got 2 more physique critiques because, like I said, you guys have been bombarding us. So we got to get through some of them. This is Luke Musselman, and we're getting after him because he is 2 weeks out, his 3rd show ever. He wants to win an overall and compete at the national level when he has a pro level physique. Let's see, he's 24, 5'10", 226. So it looks like he's going to be a heavyweight. I don't know what show he's doing.
Okay. What else do we have picture-wise?
Let's start with the front and rear double. What do you see?
Front rear double. I don't like the posing. I think he's like bending a little too much. I also think the camera maybe is a little too high, so it makes it look a little bit more exaggerated. I like his width, his lats.
Yeah.
Sure. I think he needs a little bit more traps. Arguably, if he pushes his head back toward the camera, perhaps that might help it a little bit, or maybe he's rounding. I can't see the side angle on him. And then, again, from a foot positioning standpoint, we have a little bit of an imbalance because the feet are so far apart. I feel like the one leg looks smaller than the other. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I'm going to move on to his lat spread and his side chest. And I think really the big things are just the posing tweaks. I like his physique. I feel like he can get more out of that side chest from the waist up. I'm happy with his legs. I like, he's showing the hamstring drop, nice split. I think and I don't even think he needs to turn or rotate at the waist. I think if he just pushes that shoulder forward a little bit more, it's going to make that back pec bunch up and you're going to see the splits in his pecs, and it's going to make the profile of his right delt look even bigger and just create that level of, that image of muscularity on this shot. And then the lat spread, I feel like we can change this up too. Something with the shoulders look a little flat here to me.
Yeah, I don't know if he's shrugging up potentially. A lot of the times people shrug up when they're doing this movement, to where it doesn't look like he has any traps.
Yes.
That's what I'm seeing. And now, real quick on his conditioning, So he didn't tell you how far out he is? Or he did?
Yeah, he's 2 weeks out as of yesterday. Sorry. He sent this on November 2nd, so it must have been Sunday. So it looks like it shows in 2 weeks. So a week and a half from today, basically.
I think conditioning is pretty good. Let me see his glutes. He's a white boy, so he needs to tan a little bit.
Yeah.
Conditioning, I think is good for 2 weeks out. He's on par here.
Yeah. I would say just push it a little bit over this next rest of this week so that you have next week to pull back. I want to see the glutes in just a little bit more. Maybe he's holding a little water today. Maybe he has been pushing it pretty hard, so he's just a little bit watery. But you touched up on the tan because he is a white boy. And
Yeah.
I would suggest to him to start putting coats on Thursday night, probably wash one off, and then Friday be prepared to do as many as 4 coats, and then maybe even 2 on Saturday morning. So I just know from experience of working with people, sometimes it just takes as many coats as it takes. And then lastly, to round out today's show, we have, come on, George Vyosky. Sorry if I butchered your name, man. Let me find out the details on him. Let me pull up this thing. All right, so he's 21 years old. He's 171 centimeters, 83 kilograms on stage. What is that? 83, so 100, about 100. So he'd be like a middleweight, right?
Yeah.
Right around. Okay, so middleweight bodybuilder. It says bodybuilding, competed in the IFBB and planning to switch to the NPC next spring. Usually we do that in reverse. You go in the NPC and you go to the IFBB. But I think what he means, he was probably in the IFBB. What's the other organization? IFBB. You know the one that Crizzo was in?
Yeah, it's overseas.
It's overseas. It's not part of the United States, obviously. Yeah. But let's see. So we got some other shots of him. What do you think of his conditioning?
I think his conditioning is good. I think his midsection looks a little funky. I don't know if that's from a lack of development with his abs or perhaps how he might have carved up for the show, because then I look at his tricep, the lines in his quads, the feathering, even the side shot, and they're all in. So to me, I don't know if it's a digestive thing or just, again, work on his abs more, but for 21, I mean, he puts me to shame.
Yeah, both of us. I mean, look at his conditioning in the back shot. His glutes are peeled. His hamstrings are peeled. His calves, everything. I'm gonna go back to this shot. I think for him, he's got to make sure his pecs and his shoulders get a lot bigger, because I don't think it's a lack of conditioning in his abs. I just think some guys just don't have the greatest abdominal walls, right? I mean, look at his obliques. You can tell he's in shape. It's just a matter of his abdominals want to protrude out. And I don't think I'm going to assume he's doing vacuum work. He's doing all that kind of stuff. I just think he needs to make a huge set of pecs and a huge set of arms and delts to hide that weakness in his physique. Now, also, he needs some hamstrings. Okay? I'm looking at his side tricep. Definitely needs hamstrings to match what is pretty good quadricep development. And then, yeah, even from the back, more hammies.
Yeah.
Man, doesn't anyone ever just do a basic front double bicep anymore and send them to us?
No. That's like that pose exposes a lot of people.
That's true.
You know?
It is the equalizer. More muscle through the back for sure. There's a lot of muscle lacking back here. Like, we're not really seeing lats. Traps, rhomboids, lower back. We just need a lot more development. I mean, what did I say? He's 20.
You say he's 21. He's 6 feet essentially, and about 178 pounds.
Okay, then. So at 6 foot, you got to be 220.
71 centimeters, you said.
Yeah, what is that? 171 cm. Tell me what that is.
Never mind. That's 5'6".
Oh, that's 5'6". Okay.
Never mind.
Okay. All right. So here's the thing. Definitely needs more size everywhere. You figured out how to get to condition. That's a big battle for guys on stage to figure out how to get into condition. So my advice to him would be to take all of next year off and look at competing late 2027. Like, give yourself a couple really good blast cycles to, make some serious growth. Come back 12 pounds heavier with the same detail, same conditioning. I think we're going to be talking about a different athlete. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, right in these pictures, so he's basically Because again, I thought he was 71 inches. So he's 5'6", and he's about 180 pounds. So I think 182, right?
Yeah.
If he should be a light heavy at like a national show. So I mean, if he can put on pretty much 6 kilos, about 15 pounds over the next year and a half, 2 years, he'll be a very good perennial light heavy.
It's always awesome too when like someone says, "This is my information, this is where I'm at," and I haven't even tapped the GH card yet, or I haven't even tapped the insulin card yet, or you know what I mean? Because a lot of guys today, they just jump right out of the gate into using everything under the sun. We talked earlier, a great first cycle is testosterone, maybe a good first prep cycle, some tests, some mass, and some type of oral at the end. Now today, kids are 21, they're running pro level cycles right out of the gate.
Yeah.
So it'd be cool to see what he was running. He doesn't have to tell us, but I always find it's nice to see someone has not played that card yet, and there's a lot of room there. So Goji, good physique, my man. Hopefully we'll see you again in 2 years, and you can tell us you put on that 15 pounds and you're an IFBB pro. Kyle, what you got going on tonight?
Tonight, I have some body work later tonight. I have some check-ins to take care of, and then that's really it, man. We've been decorating for the Christmas season here at the Wilkes household, and yeah, that's pretty much it, man.
Do you guys go all in with the decorations?
You could say that.
Okay. Are you like a Christmas guy, or are you like a Scrooge like me?
In between, I don't. I like when it's done. I don't like doing the work per se. I let her kind of do all that, but yeah. I enjoy it more so for family, friends, stuff like that, and I like to give gifts to people, see them be happy. That's my main goal, make them happy.
Yeah. You like to come home and see the tree up and the lights up and everything, but you just don't want to do it.
No. And she's like, "Oh, get the." I think she's asked me like 3 times, so I had to finally do it. But she's like, "Oh, get all the decorations and the not Tupperware. What the fuck is the word? Everything.
Ornaments.
The ornaments that are in boxes and stuff in the basement. So I had to go do all that, and I'm like,
yeah,
cardio.
Yeah. I saw this thing. This chick was like, he makes the money so I can make the memories. And it kind of made sense.
Sure, you could say that. Makes sense.
Right. Anyway, that's it for today, guys. Thanks for following along. Leave us some more questions for the next show in the comments. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Tell a friend about the podcast if you enjoyed it. And with that, we are unwracked.